We understand from the rent stabilization laws that it doesn't matter what you do now, you can't raise them anyways.
Exactly.
Virtually impossible.
So a lot of them are going back to the bank. A lot of them are distressed, right? You have a negative NOI. So every year, your utilities, your operating expenses, your property tax, they're all going up more than the 0 to 2 to 3% increase that you're allowed to increase in the rent.
And I'm assuming Aundre comes in and changes that.
Yes. So the
How?
only way
How?
is by lowering your utility cost.
But in order to lower your utility cost, don't you have to invest more money?
Yes.
So what you're doing is effectively making the liability amortized over a very long amount of time so that you can capitalize on the gain today while effectively implementing the how you build
Yes.
and the what you build sustainably.
Yes. So New York State is great, and that's why we'll stay here. NYSERDA, which is the energy corporation for the state, there's a lot of incentives there.
The themes in your life and being in the music industry and building this first brownstone and being an athlete and then pivoting, it doesn't seem like you've confronted a lot of impossible. Said differently, when did you find that you had to confront some sort of impossibility? I want to get to that because I feel like everything we just discussed was leading up to something that was going to test all of those things you've learned.
So paying a mortgage, paying, for the first brownstone, paying, let's call it $10,000 a month in renovation for my workers, starting a new business.
You're describing an activity. What are you trying to point out with this activity?
So money runs out fast, and you have to figure out ways to pivot and borrow other money, other capital to get to the finish line. Because if you don't get to the finish line, you have a half-built house that you can't rent.
So is that your impossibility?
That was my early impossibility. Now I face much bigger impossibilities.
But that early impossibility, tell me how you traversed that. How did you get over that? I'm assuming you had negative bank account statuses and balances.
Yes.
Okay.
Credit card debt, get out of that 20% high interest rate, 13% interest rate financing, but I had to get it rented out first. So I had to get to the finish line of finishing those apartments, and then my apartment, I could renovate. It doesn't matter because it's not generating income, right? So I could do mine slower, but I had to get to a refinance where I could lower my monthly mortgage to where I could afford to pay the mortgage.
So what did you pull from in your mind to stay ahead of the game when you were not ahead of the game, literally? What did you pull from?
Perseverance, right?
But where did that perseverance come from?
I guess from growing up in athleticism and the grueling workouts that you do and then having to go do schoolwork
because you understand that not having enough money and having a negative balance in your bank account does not get a lot of people up in the morning. It would do the reverse. It would want to make them give up. Why didn't you give up?
Well, my life savings were in this house. I had no choice, right?
So you must do it.
I must finish. I must get this house refinanced. I must get renters for my apartment or I'm going under. Right?
So I'm assuming that impossibility has only compounded in your life.
Of course.
Okay,
yes.
Let's get there.
Absolutely.
Let's get to the compounded impossibility, because I'm assuming that once that impossibility of that brownstone inevitably ended, you thought for 1 second you were okay. But then something else occurred and there were greater impossibilities that await you. So tell me about those.
So right now we are currently working to build the world's first triple net zero building, meaning zero water, zero waste, zero energy. Now, why do I have the audacity to think I could do the first? And it's a $600 million project just outside of New York City in Lower Westchester.
Tell me about that.
Why do I have the audacity to do that? First, my architect designed the first, but it was in Albany and the owner passed away. So I have an architect that has experience engineering and designing a triple net zero. So I learned from him a great deal of why even consider this as just for namesake, or does it actually have benefit? Obviously, we were sustainably focused from the very beginning. We started area development in 2019. We really focused more on the offsite construction and modular construction to begin with. So I was chair of the Offsite Construction Council with the National Institute of Building Sciences. So I know a lot of the manufacturers and factories through that world.
So in plainest terms, what do you want to accomplish in building the first of whatever you're going to explain to me in the plainest terms so that a dog could understand it?
Sure.
And then what is the objective above your individual passion? Because I'm assuming there's a passion here.
Absolutely.
Right. So tell me that. Tell me about that, please.
So there's a misnomer that sustainability is just way too expensive and it's a nice to have, it's not a need to have.
Explain what sustainability means.
It means your building is operating way more efficiently.
And why do you need that? Who cares about that?
It inherently makes your building more valuable.
But who cares about that?
Investors don't care about better evaluations for their building.
So it ties back to money.
Yes.
How does having a sustainable business tie back to money? Sustainable project tie back to money.
So commercial real estate is evaluated on NOI, which is the net operating income, how much you're bringing in. Well, the gross operating income is how much you bring in versus the operating expenses brings you to your NOI.
Because we're going to get your value proposition in just about a second.
Yes.
So what is it?
We combine the best of sustainability and offsite construction methods to build efficiently, but also operate and maintain efficiently. So I have the moniker of how you build is just as important as what you build.
How you build is important.
Just as important as what you build.
And why is that?
Because how you build is better for the environment, right? So,
but why do I care about that?
Because climate change is happening.
So it's a political concern.
Well, it's not political. It's a...
Meaning if you take it as fact and it's occurring for those that believe it is fact and it is occurring, because we're not a political podcast,
Sure.
right? For those that believe that is happening, then that is going to matter to them.
Sure.
Do you believe that pool is greater or smaller as we're moving into 2026?
It's greater.
And what evidence do you have of that?
So you have the Paris Treaty. You have various international organizations, climate justice. You have all these international people and scientists and telling you that this is happening, and international organizations that are telling you this.
Okay. So under the backdrop of the geopolitical climate, you found this to be, frankly, something that people believe in and take as true and take as fact, and you've converted it into a, frankly, business model or business pitch.
Yes. So ESG became the term. It's been around for a while, but it became more popular over the past, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. Institutionally responsible, and every major company from Amazon are making claims to be net zero operations by a certain year, whether it be 2030 or 2050.
And what does net zero operate? What does that mean?
So your production, your work, your output is offset by zero carbon, right?
Okay.
So inherently, to build a building, you burn gas for excavators, for putting together all the building materials. That creates carbon that goes into the environment. So it has to be offset somehow.
A lot of people that are going to be listening to this are going to say, this is fucking impossible. Am I correct in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. It's extremely hard.
And extremely hard becomes impossible when?
When you don't do the necessary research. So everything has to be offset, right? So the way an Amazon gets to zero carbon is they buy carbon credits, which some are saying it's greenwashing, but they'll buy credits, they'll buy from an organization that may be doing greener farming,
Right.
right? That's deforestation,
Correct.
that may be planting trees and pulling carbon from the atmosphere, right?
Right. So getting back to more of the point, you said how you build is more important, as
Just as
important as
important.
what you build.
Yes.
So we discussed the true impossibility of building sustainably. I mean, that is true. And now, what we build, why does it matter what we build
So
in relation to sustainability?
what we build is office buildings. It's
Okay.
multifamily, right?
Right.
That's what we build.
Well,
and we
multifamily
build
is
we build that
residential.
because there's a need for all that, right? So we have a 7 million shortage nationwide in,
Right.
in housing.
I
Right?
agree with you on that.
We need housing.
I agree
So
with you on that.
inherently, we need to build more housing.
Okay, and you said the how is important, so you're doing it sustainably.
Yes.
And now, again, I think that's impossible, but well, you're going to tell me why it is possible. That's one of the ways you're confronting it in the business world, right? And then there's the what build. So what you build is office buildings, and you're converting them into?
So we're not building office buildings. We're building multifamily and mixed use. We're considering office to residential conversions
Why?
because there's a lot of office distressed in New York City right
Does
now.
it answer your how?
Partially, yes.
And how does that do that?
Because we can take an office building that is easier to renovate because it's empty, right? You don't have with multifamily, you have to do it in place sometimes. With say a rent stabilized building, we have to do the renovations in place with tenants in place. We're not, we're not going to displace people out of a rent stabilized building.
Because
right?
I think there's two things, right? There's individual apartment improvements, and then there is major capital improvements,
Yes.
which is the outside of the building,
Yes.
Outside, inside, and on the corridors or whatever, right? So there's two components there. We understand from the rent stabilization laws that it doesn't matter what you do now, you can't raise them anyways.
Exactly.
It's virtually impossible.
So a lot of them are going back to the bank. A lot of them are distressed, right? You have a negative NOI. So every year, your utilities, your operating expenses, your property tax, they're all going up more than the 0 to 2 to 3% increase that you're allowed to increase in the rent.
And I'm assuming Aundre comes in and changes that.
Yes. So the
How?
only way
How?
is by lowering your utility cost.
But in order to lower your utility cost, don't you have to invest more money?
Yes.
So what you're doing is effectively making the liability amortized over a very long amount of time so that you can capitalize on the gain today while effectively implementing the how you build
Yes.
and the what you build sustainably.
Yes. So New York State is great, and that's why love will stay here. NYSERDA, which is the energy corporation for the state, there's a lot of incentives there. There's local incentives. We have what's called Local Law 97 in the New York City. Any building over 25,000 square feet, you have to decrease your carbon emissions by 40% by the year 2030, and by 80% by the year, I think, 2050.
So where in all this is the easy part?
It's never easy.
Okay, so tell me where you actually do have that impossibility. What's impossible? There has to be something that breaks.
So it's incentive stacking, right? And
What do you mean by that?
so stacking your local, your utility, your state, and your federal incentives, along with maybe some low-income housing tax credits, along with understanding all the potential incentives available to you for your specific project.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you really believe that what you are doing will truly answer sustainability or not?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because we can be a model for other investors and developers to show that the numbers actually do work and it's actually more profitable than to do it traditionally.
I'm assuming you put your mouth where your money is.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it may very well get to the brownstone days where you have the negative bank balances to prove the sustainability works.
Potentially.
Well, that's very, very interesting. That's
Yes.
very, very interesting. The value that you bring to the world is by answering a question of we could do it better, kind of like organic, right?
Sure.
I'm the organic chicken. effectively. Not you, but what I'm building or what I'm serving. And you're saying that the market's answering that. Is the market answering that?
Yes, in certain instances, yes.
And
It's slow to adopt.
Okay, it's slow to adopt. And you are continuing that line despite it's slow to adapt. So you're ahead of the curve.
Yes. Always have been, that's kind of my career, like always ahead of the curve, always thinking about what's next, not what's now.
That seems like it goes back to your brothers. You had older brothers, so you have to always look up to.
Yes.
So let me ask you now, what are you looking up to, and what is your adversary, or what is in front of you now? What is that? What is that person that you kind of got to say, I got to get ahead of that?
So in dealing with big projects and building the way we want to build. So for instance, we want to build, instead of traditional excavation with gas, diesel excavators, we're looking at heavy autonomous electric machinery, meaning it's powered by electric and it's autonomous, right? That's one of many, right? So we're looking at bathroom pods, kitchen pods, MEP walls, which means the mechanical, electrical, plumbing is built within a wall and shipped to you directly. What that does is it decreases your time to complete construction, which lowers your holding costs and all that. But it's also built in a market that's cheaper, right? So we build it in Pennsylvania. We build it even overseas with lower rates, but in a factory-controlled environment that's a safer environment for the workers, but also better quality, cheaper, and more reliable, less cost contingencies, right? So you have less cost overruns because you have what's called a BIM model, building information model, and what you see, you're building. So in many traditional construction, there's what's called cost overruns, and that's how GCs make a lot of money versus the slim 3 to 5% margin that they say they're going to start with. They make money on a lot of those cost overruns. Oh, I'm changing this, I'm changing that. But when you do offsite construction, all of your design work is front-loaded, and you have to stick to what you're building.
So this reminds me of what I do and what I practice. I'm a bankruptcy and commercial litigation attorney at Jacobs PC. I own the firm. And, you're discussing a lot of, I guess, vantage points that steer clear of any reasons why something would not work. And when we get into the impossibilities of why those things are impossible, you seem to agree. But you're a staunch supporter of your vision, even if that vision is a little ahead of what the reality currently is. And you like to be there. You like to sit in that.
Absolutely. I thrive in that space.
I thrive in that space too. I call that chaos.
Yes.
And that chaos is something we are comfortable in. Not all are comfortable in, and I think there's a place for that. Both a place for that, and there are people that sit in that place and that could operate from that space. But there's a necessary component, which we were talking about, and the themes that we're talking about, that requires of you something. Explain in your own way what it requires.
Perseverance, tenacity, being able to see what's coming in the future so you don't have to retrofit your building later, right?
But you have to do all those things in spite of it actually failing right now.
Exactly.
But that makes no sense.
So people are wary of why build. This just doesn't make any sense. Why build triple net zero? It adds $70 per square foot to build this way versus traditionally.
You said that. I didn't say it. You said that.
And traditional people having trouble penciling out traditional deals. So how in the hell are you going to build with $70 extra per square
They're
foot?
Speaking to your failures.
Yes.
And how do you answer?
The incentive stacking, right? So bringing the levelized net cost back much closer to the traditional cost. But also, you have a traditional building has a 35% operating cost for a traditional market rate multifamily deal. We're operating at, we're projecting to be operating at in this building between 18 and 22. So we have lower utility costs, we have lower water and costs because we become the utility. So instead of paying the utility company, Con Edison, we are collecting from our tenants' utilities.
So those buildings that are in distress, is this a way for you to pitch to the new purchasers about how to save on the operating cost and net cost of the building so that you could get a higher return?
Absolutely. And because of this project in Lower Westchester that we're working on, we've created basically an AI native SaaS platform that we're working on called IncentEdge. It's not out yet. We're building it out.
But what does that do?
It's three silos in the industry. So there's incentive finding and discovery.
Yeah.
So finding lesser known incentive. Everybody knows about IRA, 30% discount on geothermal, whatever. State level, and some people know about utilities, right? And within the state and utilities, they constantly have new ones coming on and some expiring. So you have to keep up with that. So there's an incentive discovery at silo 1. Silo 2 is the grant writing. So now you know what your project is available, what incentives are available for your project. You have to go write the grants to receive those awards. Some are as of right, some you have to apply for, right? So grant writing is expensive and you can't apply for all the grants maybe that you want because some of them are lower probability. So we are building an AI native platform that will do it cheaper, but we have a repository of over 30,000 incentives across the nation, sector agnostic, that allows you, and also we have successfully awarded within those 30,000 incentives to know confidently and give you a probability of how a specific incentive will match up to your property or your project, right? So the AI can tell us with 75% probability, because we've seen these 100 projects that are similar to yours, you'll be able to qualify for that.
So if you had to prepare a statement in your head, your push is to make this project work. Your pull is what? What is the pulling? What is pulling you to make this project work? To prove what?
That sustainability does work when done efficiently with the right building methodology and with the right building systems.